Katie and Guy had been planning this camping trip for months. When they finally stepped into the quiet forest, the world felt peaceful, but strangely silent, as if the trees were listening. They hiked deeper in, laughing, talking, enjoying the fresh air, but the silence never broke. No birds, no insects, just the soft crunch of their boots on the trail. At the lake, Katie knelt to splash her face with water. The surface was perfectly still, until a set of ripples spread out in a slow, deliberate circle. She froze. There was no wind, no fish, nothing that should have caused it. When she leaned closer, the ripples stopped instantly, like the water was pretending to be calm. They set up their tent and kept exploring. Guy stopped at a tree with long, fresh claw marks carved deep into the bark. They weren't from a bear. They weren't from anything he recognized. Katie tried to laugh it off, but her voice sounded thin. As they walked, they heard soft clicking sounds above them. When they looked up, small, shadowy shapes darted between the branches, too fast to see clearly, too quiet to be normal. Katie grabbed Guy's arm. He whispered, "Probably squirrels." But they both knew squirrels didn't move like that. Back at the lake, Guy spotted something floating near the shore. It looked like a fish until it lifted a thin, arm-like limb out of the water and slipped beneath the surface. He blinked hard, unsure if he'd really seen it. Night fell quickly. They sat by the campfire, trying to relax, but the forest felt different now, heavy, watching. Katie stared into the tree line and swore she saw a pair of glowing eyes. When Guy turned to look, they vanished. Inside the tent, they settled into their sleeping bags. The forest was silent again, until soft footsteps circled the tent. Not heavy like an animal, light, curious. Katie whispered Guy's name. He whispered back, "I hear it too." The footsteps paused, then slowly faded into the distance. Morning came with a pale, cold light. When they stepped outside, the ground around their tent was covered in strange footprints, small, delicate, and unlike anything they'd ever seen. Katie crouched down to touch one. The dirt was still disturbed, as if whatever made them had been there only moments before. They packed up quickly, not out of fear, but out of the unsettling feeling that they were guests in a place that didn't want to be understood. As they hiked out of the forest, Katie turned for one last look. Far between the trees, a tall, thin figure stood perfectly still, watching them leave. She blinked, and it was gone. Katie and Guy never felt threatened, but they both knew one thing for sure. They had not been alone in those woods.